I'm going to talk about 2 documentary films, both on Netflix. And actually, not that I planned it, but they're both sort of in the musical world.
Oh, okay.
So the first I'm going to talk about is American Symphony, which is on Netflix.
No relation to any of the American horror things that you watch?
Very, very different, Ed. Very different. So it's a biographical documentary, 2023. It is filmed, written, directed by, edited by Matthew Heineman. And it's about the musician Jon Batiste. So you may know him, Jon Batiste, or you might recognize him from, he was the band leader on the Stephen Colbert show from like 2015 to 2022. If you were up that late with his band Stay Human. I will say for myself, that wouldn't have been like if you asked me, like, where do you know him from? It was when he started to do press for the Pixar film Soul.
Oh.
So he was in charge of basically that soundtrack with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. That's an interesting combination, amongst themselves. But, Trent Reznor has become a very well-respected soundtrack, composer. So Soul came out, and part of it, Pixar, is about a man, sorry, spoiler alert, but it's been a couple of years, about a man dying and his soul fighting, basically saying, like, I'm not done in my human form yet, and fighting to come back. And there is a fantastic jazz soundtrack that goes with it because the main character that dies in the movie is a jazz musician. So they must have brought in Jon Batiste to basically sort of channel all that.
Right.
And so he did interviews, and I'm like, who is this super charming, dynamic person? And I did not know that it was Stephen Colbert's band leader.
Well, I remember him from watching Stephen Colbert.
Okay.
And, that's a classic thing that they would do on a late night talk show. They have somebody that they're kind of bantering with, and that's who he would banter with, his band leader. So I know him from that, but I don't know a lot about him.
Who was David Letterman's piano playing guy for like freaking ever?
Paul Schaefer. John, get on mic. You can't say Paul Schaefer way over there.
He's doing it, Catherine.
Paul Schaefer.
So, yes, exactly. So, and he's really Jon Batiste is like a beautiful soul and presence. So immediately you sort of engaged with him. So I didn't know much about him, and then it was sort of like once that movie left, it was sort of like, okay. But he is such a talented musician, plays multiple instruments, Juilliard educated, that, the opportunities that started to come for him was incredible. So this documentary takes place over 1 year. The year was like 2022, probably like quick turnaround because it basically came out this year. And you know who are the producers on it? The production company Higher Ground.
Oh.
Now, for those of you that immediately don't go like, what's that about? Are you going to say, Ed?
No.
You're
Go for it.
I was going to say, but I was going to let you say. Well, it's the Obamas. Because
Yes.
I just last week was talking about Rustin, and they produced Rustin.
We've talked about recently 2 of their productions, which I was going to say is Rustin and Leave the World Behind.
Oh.
They're cranking it out, people.
Good for them.
We have stories. Call us. Seriously. So, this is different. It's not scripted. It's a documentary. And what happens in this year, he decides to write a symphony. So he's been performing arts at this point, his own original work, and then performing other people's songs. And it's like, I'm going to compose a symphony and perform it at like Carnegie Hall. So it's like, okay. And when you have the date set for something like that, it's like, you're going to do it.
The pressure is on.
Well, the pressure doubles, if not goes to the roof, when his wife, who he met, no joke, in band camp.
Oh, wow.
When they were like teenagers, she played the double bass. His wife, Suleika Jaouad, who is herself a motivational speaker, author, columnist for the New York Times. So, this is like a power couple. Like, they are happening. And she has a New York Times bestseller called Between Two Kingdoms, which is a memoir, which is about her battle with leukemia.
Oh, geez.
But she had been in remission. Even though they had dated and he had gone through that journey with her, it came back.
Oh, no.
During this year.
Oh, no.
Now, the treatment for it was a bone marrow transplant. And that is very taxing on the body to go through that, what she was doing, to do the bone marrow transplant and all the treatments with it. So they're based in New York, and she's in a New York hospital doing this while he is trying to compose the symphony.
Wow.
And it's just such an intimate look at their relationship, at the artist's struggle, and the fame journey, because he has become so recognizable, so famous, so sort of like beloved, but you can get caught in that if you're not producing content. It's like you're trapped in a space. So he is feeling like he's got to create the symphony, create something new. And in the meantime, he's basically going to the hospital every day and like sleeping in a chair with his wife.
Ooh, jeez.
Yeah. So it gives you a whole new level of respect for him, them as a couple, his integrity as an artist. And like I said, so charming. I mean, good God. I mean, you just watch it and you're rooting for them. So no matter where you are in your life, you can watch this and get inspiration, because to push through, to move forward, to overcome, for both of them.
Yeah.
Her quietly in a hospital room and him literally on a stage to hundreds of people and then, to millions. And he's got to also go out and do talk show appearances and do awards. And like I said, back in this room, she's fighting for her life.
Woo.
So could not recommend it more. I think it's won a couple awards, on that regard. It's nominated for an Oscar for Best Original Song. So I think
So it had a theatrical release?
It must have.
It must have.
It Never Went Away is the name of the Best Original Song. And there's great moments of like where the power goes out during the Carnegie Hall performance. And it's like, what? So I just think this year has been sort of about the composer maestro, because we just saw, the fabulous movie that was Bradley Cooper's.
I don't know why. It's also making me think of Tar, which is not really the right connection.
I never got a chance to bring that up when we were reviewing Maestro, that I'm like, those two should never have gotten together. Like, I would love to have seen them in a movie, but...
It's good she didn't actually exist.
I
totally thought she did. I totally thought
that was one of my favorite parts of the whole movie discussion, was that you believed that her Instagram account was real.
Yes.
And then it was like that she died.
Well, because she would bitch about her assistant. Then her assistant basically posted an IG that said she was dead. And I'm like, what? And like she wasn't even alive. Okay, so see, Cate Blanchett did such a fabulous job. I just believe this person had to exist.
Oh my God.
So
you thought it was a biopic instead of fictional work.
I did. But this is actually one that is really about two real life human beings. And in the end, you're rooting for them, but then you're rooting for the artistic journey and just the struggle of life in itself.
Wow.
And also science. You're just like, come on.
Yeah.
Cure her so these two beautiful young people can get on with their lives.
Amazing.
Because talk about the world is before them. All these opportunities, all this talent. You're like, so highly recommend that one.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Is he currently still on the Colbert Show?
No. I think poor Stephen was like...
it seems like this would be so much. How could you also be like your day job? Good Lord.
He left in 2022 basically to go off and do this American Symphony.
Ah, okay.
And I think Stephen Colbert was like, sad, but it's like you understand, like the baby bird needs to fly way outside the nest and the safety of it. Questlove will talk about being on Jimmy Fallon, and like it's one of the greatest gigs because you just have a steady gig as a musician. Like you rarely have that. You're going to the same place, same time. You can be creative, do different music, have exposure. Like, where do you get that? So I'm sure like letting go or leaving the golden cage, flying out was probably nerve wracking. But I think the world has massively embraced him. He's almost at every award show. I mean, the camera absolutely loves him. And him and his wife were just at the Grammys this year. So I was so happy to see her there. I'm like, you're healthy enough to be there. So hopefully she's doing well. Yeah. So once again, it's American Symphony on Netflix.
Sounds fantastic.
It was very inspiring. It just was very inspiring.